All right, we are recording now, and we are going to walk through making this animation, which is a very basic animation where we are going to use 3D capabilities of After Effects to actually pivot on a different axis so that our text actually flips up and appears to exist in 3D space, not just two-dimensional, which is most of what we've already been doing. So I am going to have you do the same thing. So let's do this. If you're working on the same computer that you were last time in class, then you can open our previous font animations After Effects project. If you aren't, then I would make a new one and call it Font Animations 2. But let's launch After Effects and actually start a new project called Font Animations. And then we are going to do a comp once that is open. So I'll give you a second or two to do that. And I'm going to open some more of those here so that I can see what's going on. Right. So hopefully After Effects will work okay, even when you're streaming all this stuff. Understandably, it's probably going to overtax the computer a bit. I don't want to wait too terribly long. So once you have started a project called Font Animations 2 or opened last week's, you are then going to go to the Layer menu and do New, nope, I'm sorry, Composition menu, New Composition, and I would call this Name Flip. All right, I'm going to get my notes out here. All right, so I'm going to make a new one. Not that one. I'm going to make a new one too. Name Flip. All right, so on layer one, I'm going to go to the text. Well, there's no layer yet, but the point is to initiate the creation of my first layer. I'm going to go to the text tool. Yeah, 23976 is fine. The same sort of 23 frame rate we've been using, 1920, 1080. Yeah, I forgot you could be on a new machine, so it doesn't necessarily default to what we did last time. But yes, it doesn't matter that much. But again, I want you to get used to knowing that a lot of the stuff you're doing in the environment you're in is basically 24p or 2398. Either one will work. It's the same basic idea. You want that filmic look, not broadcast TV look. So we like the 24 frame. So once you're there, you can hit the text tool, and I'm going to type my name. And it's way too big. And it's also basically semi-transparent, which it actually isn't. It's black on black. So I'm going to go in. If you don't remember, you can go into the character section on the right-hand side, and you can actually change your color. So I'm going to change this to a nice purple. And then I'm going to scale it down a bit. And I'm going to put it kind of sort of where I want it. And then, just to be super efficient, I'm actually going to duplicate that layer. So I'm going to click on it down in the bottom left-hand corner. And I'm going to Command D, or on a PC, Control D, and dupe it. And then I'm going to take that copy that I just made. I'm going to move it over to where my last name is going to go. And then I'm going to go to the text tool again, and I'm going to click into that graphic, and I'm going to write my last name. Now I know the formatting is the same for both. Life is good. Now, as we pointed out last week, we can do some aligning. If you go to the align thing, if you do, it has a align vertically and align horizontally. If I don't want a dead center, right, it's my last name, but if I want it to be top to bottom, then I could do the vertical one, get it right, go to my first name and do the same thing again. And then boom, I've got it pretty good. The only thing I don't like is the spacing in between. So I'm going to move one over, and then again, I can double check, click on that, and it will align correctly. Pretty good. Now we need our anchor point to be underneath each word. If it is not, then you have to go to the layer. Maybe I'll put Bryce on top just because I like it to go left to right. And this is the first one that's going to animate. If I hit A for anchor point, I can actually see it. And as I start playing with the X and Y axis, you can see it move closer or further away from your anchor point. So where I had it is actually where I want it. I want it a little below. But if yours is not there, then play with those until you get it to look something like this. All right, maybe because the last thing I built on here, it did this, but if yours is not by default there, then you want to do that. All right. So looking here back at this one, we want to promote these layers to be 3D. So if you go down to the toggle switches modes toggle at the bottom to change your interface and what options you then have, you will then see where we went to get the motion blur before, which was the ball. It looks like circles with echoed things. If your anchor point doesn't show up, you may need to turn this on, toggle mask and shape visibility. I cannot zoom in. I already tried it with WebEx and it doesn't work. So I think you have to turn on not both of these, but one of these down here. See if that's actually correct. Really? Did that turn on your anchor point? And maybe once you start moving it, you'll see where it is. I'm not sure, but I have had it not show up before, and I thought that was how I fixed it. All right, but what we're going to do is we're going to promote these to 3D. And one way we do that is next to the sort of circles that echo that gave us motion blur, there's a square that is a 3D block looking thing. We're going to turn that on. All right, and we'll turn it on for both layers because we're going to want to move both layers in a fancy schmancy way. All right, so with my first name selected, it now when I promoted it gave me a bunch of controls. If you don't see them, then you can mine into it by clicking in and going into transform. And then you'll notice there's an X rotation, a Y rotation, a Z rotation. So you have several options now that you didn't have before. And we are going to mess with the X rotation. So when you click on it, you can see that as you drag the right number, the left number does something else and it doesn't look like anything happens. So you want the right number. And basically, you can make it flat and disappear, which is a 90-degree angle. So if you do negative 90, actually I guess it's 91 because we're a little off axis. Negative 91. No. Make a liar out of me. There it is, 93. Negative 93. That's allowing for the camera position because it's not exact. Perfect math would be 90. All right. So if that is my starting animation, then I can make the first keyframe right there with the old stopwatch. And then I can go to how quick I want it to flip up. So I'm just going to go like a second in. That's pretty slow. I can move it later. I'm just trying to be easy. And I can change it to back to 0. and that automatically sets a keyframe for me. I could have set it manually. I've been encouraging you to set them manually, but as we get into the more advanced stuff, then you have to, then it's better to just go to the right place in your timeline, make an adjustment, and let it create a keyframe for you. All right, so if you do not have the access to the 3D box, then remember you got to toggle these over to turn on access to those things. All right. So now if I play it, it goes from flat to up. Not real exciting, but hey, it's something we haven't done before. So now I'm going to do the same with my last name. I'm going to open it. I'm going to go into transform. I'm going to align myself with 1 second just because it's easier to do that. And I'm going to set my X rotation point there as normal. Go back to the beginning, set it manually. I can type in my -93. Knit 2 will disappear. And then, of course, I can delay these. So if I want it to be a little fancier, then I would take Bagwell and I would move it over. So now I get 1 comes up, 2 comes up, boom, boom. And of course, if you remember, you can click on either of these or both at the same time, hit the letter U, and all the keyframe things that you have set will pop up. And I could decide, okay, yeah, I want these to be smoother. So I can right click on them and say, give me an ease in on these. Ease in. Now it should be a little smoother. Yay, isn't that pretty? I'm gonna mark an N so I'm not looping my whole timeline. Okay, so we've got a couple questions here that I want to be sure and answer. But I'm going to stop recording